What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to take a look at Tommy Hurricane Jackson. Now, he was born August 9th, 1931 in Sparta, Georgia. He died February 14th, 1982. He was 50 years of age at the time of his death. He had total fights of 45, 35 wins, 16 knockouts, 9 losses with 1 draw. Now, Hurricane Jackson stood 6 foot 2 inches and had a 76-inch reach. He had 318 rounds of fighting experience under his belt, and he was managed and trained by Whitey Bimstein and Freddie Brown. Now, Whitey Bimstein and Freddie Brown was also in the corner of Rocky Graziano. Rocky Graziano turned out to be a middleweight champion when he knocked out Tony Zale. Now, Hurricane Jackson fought from 1951 to 1961. He had a 10-year career span. And he was in there with very good fighters. But he's known for defeating Ezzard Charles, who was way past his prime. And he defeated him August 3rd, 1955, and then again August 31st, 1955. Hurricane Jackson was very upset in 1956 because he was ranked number 1 at this point in his career. Rocky Marciano decided to hang up the gloves in 56 because in 1955, he would face the old mongoose, Archie Moore. Now, the problem he had, he was dropped in the first round with Archie Moore. He would come back and he would knock out Archie Moore in the 9th round. He would wear him down. You see, Archie Moore was a light heavyweight champion at the time of that fight. Archie Moore had defeated Joey Maxim in 1952, and he would hold on to that crown until 1962 for 10 years. But at that point in Archie Moore's career, he had age on him. He should have won that title 10 years before. So Archie Moore was a very popular name, but it was a good scare for Rocky Marciano because he was dropped in the first round. And at this point in Rocky Marciano's career, he no longer wanted to be in any wars. He didn't want to have any problems with the fighters coming up because he looked at the landscape. Now, when he fought Ezzard Charles in 1954, Rocky Marciano suffered a cut in his nose, and he started having some problems after that fight. Physical problems. So he didn't want to be in any more of those kind of wars. When he looked down at the landscape, he noticed that Bob Baker was ranked number 2. And Bob Baker was in a very good scrap with Tommy Hurricane Jackson. And when he fought Tommy Hurricane Jackson, they fought a war. And Rocky Marciano didn't want that type of an action. He didn't want that kind of action with any of these up-and-coming fighters. So him and Jim Norris decided that Rocky Marciano should step down and hang up the gloves in 1956. Ranked number 1, you had Tommy Hurricane Jackson. Nino Valdez, who was a tall, beautiful jab, two-fisted fighter. He was a Cuban heavyweight that was avoided by many. And after watching Nino Valdez and Bob Satterfield, that's what really made up Rocky Marciano's mind. And he said, no, I'm not going to continue with this. I'm going to hang up the gloves. So Rocky Marciano and Jim Norris decided to select 2 fighters, regardless of the rankings, to fight for his title. Now, Rocky Marciano had already faced Archie Moore in 1955. Although dropped in the first round, he did get Archie Moore out of there because Archie Moore was actually a light heavyweight champion and he was worn down for 9 rounds. And Archie Moore would collapse on the ropes, and Rocky Marciano would win by a 9th round knockout. And the other opponent that they looked at was 1952 middleweight gold medalist from the Helsinki Games, Floyd Patterson. Now, Floyd Patterson was a light heavyweight. He actually had a build of a super middleweight, light heavyweight. But he was ranked number 1 at this point in his career in the light heavyweight division. So they chose the light heavyweight champion, Archie Moore, and the number 1 ranked light heavyweight contender, Floyd Patterson, to fight for Rocky Marciano's heavyweight championship strap. Jim Norris and Rocky Marciano cleverly thought that this would be something that would be of interest to Rocky Marciano, because Rocky Marciano didn't really want to retire, but he did what I always say: let a man fight himself out of a fight. He figured while Bob Baker, Nino Valdez, Eddie Machen, and others were waiting for an opportunity, they would fight each other and they would eliminate one another. So they placed Floyd Patterson and Archie Moore, September 1956, to fight for that crown, because Rocky Marciano knew that Floyd Patterson couldn't take a heavyweight's punch. He knew that. And he had already defeated Archie Moore. But before that fight can officially come off, Hurricane Jackson threatened to go to the State Athletic Commission because he was ranked number 1. And he was making a lot of noise. And Jim Norris and Rocky Marciano spoke with Whitey Bimstein and Freddie Brown. And they said, look, I can't do nothing about this. You know, this man is going over to the commission's office. So they worked out a deal. And they said, we'll get you a shot at Floyd Patterson, and whoever wins that fight can fight for the belt. So Jackson wanted to know why he couldn't fight Floyd Patterson for the actual belt in September. And they said, no, we have to do an elimination match. So it'll be you and Floyd Patterson, and whoever wins would face one another, or will face Archie Moore in September. Is what actually happened. So the fight was on in 1956 between Floyd Patterson and Tommy Hurricane Jackson. Let's take a look at some shots of that fight. Now, Patterson is very upset about the news. He had already been promised at a shot at Archie Moore. So they go over the rankings to find out how they can dispute this, because Customato wasn't too happy about this. Now, Floyd Patterson took advantage of an opportunity when, as you can see here, Commissioner Jim Norris, and at this time, Joe Louis, was acting commissioner and referee and everything else. Floyd Patterson wanted to have a word with Jim Norris, find out why he was removed from facing Archie Moore for the title shot. And they explained to him that you got to fight Jackson. As you can see here, Tommy Hurricane Jackson, Whitey Bimstein, Freddie Brown. You can see here Teddy Brenner, who was a matchmaker, and various press was trying to find out what was actually going on. And you can see the upsetting look on Hurricane Jackson's face. And the headline read, "Tee off for a title." So finally they get it to happen. Tommy Hurricane Jackson will face Floyd Patterson. Meanwhile, now former heavyweight champion Rocky Marciano goes on retirement, but he keeps an open mind as he states, "I could return, but the ex-heavyweight champ not to fight again gives views on Floyd Patterson." So the stage is now officially set for Tommy Hurricane Jackson and Floyd Patterson. And this all came about because Jackson spoke up and said, no. I was ranked number 1, I want a shot. So you can see here, tail of the tape, Floyd Patterson and Tommy Hurricane Jackson. Patterson was 22 years of age, he stood 6 foot. Jackson was 25 years of age, he stood 6 foot 3 inches. Patterson was 183 pounds and Jackson was 193 pounds. Patterson had a 71-inch reach. Jackson had an 80-inch reach. So it'll be very interesting to see what will come about with this fight. Now, Floyd Patterson was a 1-5 pick in his heavyweight title bout. Now, what I'm showing you here, this is my Floyd Patterson scrapbook. The entire scrapbook is Floyd Patterson. And I'm kind of mixing it up the first and second fight. He fought Hurricane Jackson again in 1957 when he was champion. And I'm just showing you some highlights here of that fight. We just kind of stroll around on the book. This is my Floyd Patterson book, and it has the fight between him and Tommy Hurricane Jackson. Now, as you can see here, Floyd Patterson wailing away at Tommy Hurricane Jackson. And at some point, they called one of these knockdowns a slip. And Floyd Patterson wanted to make sure he didn't have any problems in his fight. The referee was Ruby Goldstein. Now, Ruby Goldstein was a very, very good humanitarian. He was an outstanding fighter in the 1920s, but he was ran by the mob when he was refereeing. He kind of did what he was told. He was in all the big fights, and many of those fights were controversial fights. Now, this article came from Sports Illustrated, August 5th, 1957, as you can see here. And I'm not going to go through the article with you at this point. I'm just showing you around a little bit on this book, scrapbook that my dad and I put together. And it covers this fight, Floyd Patterson and Tommy Hurricane Jackson. As you can see, Jackson has a little swollen jaw towards his right jaw swollen. And Patterson was putting the work on Tommy Hurricane Jackson. Now, Tommy Hurricane Jackson would eventually face Nino Valdez. And Nino Valdez had threw a beautiful right hand to Hurricane Jackson in the second round and threw him basically against the rope with a punch. Very weird scenario. And Jackson was kind of laying on the ropes. They didn't call it a knockdown or anything. He was just laying on the ropes and he couldn't get himself together. And Nino Valdez was just whirling away at him. He didn't take his time. Otherwise, he would have got him out of there. And he eventually knocked down Jackson. Now, I'm giving you different angles of the knockdown with Floyd Patterson and Tommy Hurricane Jackson. So to make that clear so you don't think Jackson was knocked down round after round. Trying to give you some opportunities to read some of this stuff here. As you can see here, the referee was Ruby Goldstein. He stopped the scheduled 15-round bout in the 10th round. Excuse the focus here. And as you can see here, Floyd Patterson and Tommy Hurricane Jackson. Jackson is down. Doesn't look like he's actually going to get up. Now here you have Floyd Patterson's mother and wife. Mother to the left and wife to the right. They actually look like sisters. It's amazing. Floyd Patterson puts his entire weight behind this punch. There's no way in the world that Jackson is not going down on this one. Beautiful display of punching combination of Floyd Patterson. As you can see here, Floyd Patterson in Customato. And Tommy Hurricane Jackson and Freddie Brown. So like I told you, I'm kind of skipping around here. Here you have Floyd Patterson preparing for the second fight with Tommy Hurricane Jackson. Now this video was really more about Jackson than Patterson, but I'm just skimming around a little bit. Now Tommy Hurricane Jackson had lost to, well, I know he was in there with Eddie Machem. Jackson was in there with Julio Medeiros. He defeated him. Clarence Henry, very good heavyweight, defeated him. He defeated Rex Lane. Rex Lane was in there with Marciano. And he also defeated Keen Simmons, another very good heavyweight. I have profiles on all those fighters that I just mentioned. Howard King defeated him. Howard King went to Canada to face George Chuvalo. So Howard King was the goods. So Hurricane Jackson was in there with very, very good fighters. He just couldn't win the big ones. But one thing I most admire, he did not give up, he didn't quit, and he fought for something he believed in. He got his shot at the heavyweight championship of the world. It wasn't with Marciano, it was with Floyd Patterson, 1956 and 1957. So salute to Tommy Hurricane Jackson. Very good fighter, fast hands. He had the weirdest kangaroo punch where he would take both hands and throw an uppercut at the same time. I just feel as though he didn't settle down enough. If he was relaxed and settled down a little bit more, he would have done much better in the heavyweight division. Thanks for hanging in there with me. This is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series, stating all great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Salute to my subscribers. Salute to Tommy Hurricane Jackson, Floyd Patterson, Big Bob Baker, Nino Valdez, Archie Moore, Rocky Marciano, Eddie Machem. I'm giving light on all the names that I mentioned today. Of course, Rex Lane, Howard King, Clarence Henry, Julio Medeiros. I'm trying to think of all the names I mentioned. Jimmy Slatt. He was in there with Jimmy Slatt at 2 different occasions. They split a victory. He won one and they lost one. But shout out to Tommy Hurricane Jackson. Till next time, this is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Salute.